Up to 80 to 90% of AI projects fail to deliver. So there's really a huge gap still.
I feel like it's almost going back to the basics of like get out the crayons and color and learn how to draw again.
There's all these new opportunities now with this AI world that we're in.
Hey everybody, welcome back to AI with Bry, the show where we dive deep into how to learn, leverage, and lead with AI. I'm your host, Brian Denstead. I'm a technologist, strategist, and someone deeply curious about how AI is reshaping our lives and work. Each week, we're joined by a guest who's making waves in the AI space, and together we're going to explore what they've learned, how they're applying it, and how they're bringing others along for the ride. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Sarah Cornett to the show. Sarah, welcome.
Thank you, Brian. So excited to be here.
Sarah is the founder and CEO of Global AI Advisors, where she helps organizations around the globe turn AI strategy into real business value. She has a unique blend of experience from working as a quantitative analysis in finance to leading AI strategy and adoption in complex industries like banking, technology, and advising executives on AI governance and explainability. She's
Mhm.
also been recognized in Marquis' Who's Who for her leadership and entrepreneurship and innovation. Sarah is passionate. We've gotten to hang out and talk a couple times about making AI practical, impactful, and people centered, helping organizations not only implement the technology but embrace the change that needs to come along with it. And so I'm really looking forward to today's conversation. You're bringing in technical depth, the business side of it. There's so many leaders trying to balance all of that right now.
Absolutely, yes. That we are definitely living in a new AI era. So yes, there's so many different ways we can talk about, the future of AI and what this really means for organizations.
That's right. That's right. Well, let's dive into the first part of our conversation, the learning segment. Sarah,
Mhm.
what's something you've learned recently about AI that really like stood out?
Yeah, so from working with organizations with AI implementations and transformation, I'm really learning right now that organizations still have quite a ways to go to really be able to master these AI transformations and AI adoption. In fact, what I learned most recently is up to 80 to 90% of AI projects fail to deliver expected value, which was a pretty alarming statistic that I
Hmm.
learned recently. And so when you think about and try to unpack that, that's a pretty powerful statistic. And how many of these projects are failing to deliver this value. So really unpacking that and understanding what are some of the implications there, what's really leading to such a high rate of failure for these AI projects. And some of the things are, more technical, of course, on the data side, maybe data availability isn't quite there yet. Maybe technical systems aren't ready to be able to harness the power of some of these AI solutions. But one of the biggest indicators and leaders to some of these projects failing actually comes from a leadership standpoint and really on the people side of things. Leaders are still really learning about AI adoption, how to successfully implement and bring these solutions in with their organization and aligning these solutions to their overall business strategy, understanding how they align
Hmm.
specific problems and use cases and solving real tangible problems within their organization. So there's really a huge gap still with leadership and understanding and that education and understanding how do we successfully lead AI adoption and transformation in the organization.
Yeah, and it's so true. Like we're going to get to the leadership segment, and I really want to unpack that in more detail. But like, how do you how do you advise the companies that you're working with on that learning segment? Like people have got to like it's almost I feel like it's almost going back to the basics of like get out the crayons and color and learn how to draw again or something like they have got to dip their toes into this. They've got to get it and play with it and touch it and break it and say,
Right.
"Oh wow, this is so powerful." Because like I guess I see you touched on a couple pieces for me. It was the data gap. Like, do
Mhm.
I have enough data to do something with AI? But
Right.
it's also like, how can I leverage AI to do workflow changes or to cut
Mhm.
out time and stuff? Like, there's so many ways you can apply AI into almost every person's job. So
Right.
how do you help the leaders see, play with it, learn it, and so that they can really think about how do we implement and lead with it? Like
Yeah.
hit that learn segment a little bit more for some tips and tricks that CEOs watching this should really embrace.
Right. No, I always advise, CEOs, business leaders, if they're really just at the beginning of their AI transformation, or maybe they've already experienced some failures, right, with previous implementations that haven't gone so well. I always start with advising leaders in adopting a solid AI strategy for your organization. And so really starting at the very highest level within your organization, what are your real objectives with AI? Where do you see the future of your industry, your business really going in this AI era now? How do you really see, maybe there's new products or solutions you could start to offer your customer base now within this AI era that we're in, and then unpacking that and going a little bit deeper into the specific use cases. What specific problems am I really having in my organization? Where are some customer experiences, we really want to start to drive with AI? So you can really start to pull together a whole outline of AI use cases for your organization, prioritizing them by business value generation. I've seen, organizations sort of grasping at solutions and not having a solution, a use case to tie them back to that's really going to deliver value. So you want
Hmm.
to first, create your list of use cases, really prioritize by business value generation, but also reprioritize by feasibility. So that's some of those more tactical things of what data is available to me, what does my tech stack really look like here? Because you could have a use case that could deliver 8 figures of value, but it could take you 10 years to actually implement this solution, which is,
Hmm.
definitely not advisable to go with that big bang approach to start with. So really starting
Yeah.
small, going after that low hanging fruit first, and really starting to find those use cases that are going to be high value generating use cases, low feasibility, so that you can then go and find the best solution to unlock those kinds of use cases. Not starting with the solution first, but always starting with solving that real tangible business problem first.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent advice. I guess hit us with like on this learn segment, what's the like one tool you've played with in the past week or two that you're
Mm.
just like, everybody needs to know about this tool. Go learn it, play with it.
Oh, on the learn side, yes. I play with a lot of different tools. The ones I use the most personally are I use ChatGPT almost every day. Claude I use quite a bit as well with some of my, content generation and things like this. But if you have not used Perplexity, I mean, that's like probably one of my go-to tools that I use almost on a daily basis. Those three are definitely I use the most. But I've
Hmm.
also been using a newer component of Perplexity called Comet. That's sort of like their AI, sort of a web browsing component that has Perplexity's model sort of powered underneath. I just used this past week and was pretty blown away by the results. So if you're not using those three tools, definitely go and check those out. I use them almost all three on a daily basis. So, but that's, yeah, the Comet solution was pretty powerful, that I was just playing with just this last week. So definitely check out those solutions if you haven't checked those out yet.
Very cool. I do use Perplexity all the time, but I've not played with that one little feature yet. So I'll have to click into that next time I'm in there.
Yeah.
Awesome. You've already touched on so many different aspects of leverage, but I want to try and unpack the leverage piece of this because I think it's this dichotomy of we have to use AI, but
Mhm.
AI is going to become so ubiquitous that it's going to be like water or electricity at our business, right? Like it's like I remember I'm old enough to remember PCs rolling out and people getting Microsoft Word and Excel and playing with it the first time, like, and now everybody has that and takes it for granted. So
Mhm.
it's this balance of like you're gonna leverage it in some way, shape, or form. So start
Right.
figuring out how you're going to, but it is the beginnings of it. Like, do we give the finance people Excel first, or do we give the other person? Like, where do we pour our money in the beginning as we try to start leveraging it? Maybe you have an example or two how you've helped some clients turn this AI strategy that we talked about into the first beginnings of measurable impact.
Yes, yes. And yeah, it always starts with the strategy, right? So, like I laid out with the objectives and your use cases to find your solutions, you always want to use that strategy as your guide to what teams do you want to go after first, what use cases are going to provide the most value. But once you narrow that down and have a guide, maybe it's finance, maybe it's marketing, some other areas, you always want to apply that education layer in as well. These AI solutions are not something you just plug into the wall and they magically work. There's a big part of change management that comes into adopting these solutions, right? You want to be very clear with that with your teams as well. I've seen teams and so many conversations I've been in this year with teams being afraid AI is going to replace them. What does my role look like now with AI? So these are really really sensitive conversations you need to have and understand at that leadership level. What does your team flow really look like now? What is that dynamic now? And how do you manage now as a leader or manager of people? How do you manage people plus the AI now? So that's a really, powerful notion now with organizations and leaders, and how do you push the agenda forward? But I've certainly led teams, once we narrow down the right use cases and opportunities for AI, whether it's a data analytics team or a marketing team, getting them that education, that tangible skills, and is it generative AI training, whatever the solutions are, but providing them with the right AI training that's tangible to their work and tangible to their use cases and the solutions that they are learning. There are thousands of online courses you can go and take about, prompt engineering and AI education and trainings. But I find the most powerful trainings come that something very specific and customized to a specific team. What tasks are
Hmm.
they going to be using the solutions for? What tools will they be using? How do they also safely use these tools? Thinking about governance and things like this. So I
Hmm.
find the most powerful education and the learning comes in with finding those custom programs that really meet that team with their specific problems they're solving and the specific tools that they are using.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I think I'm faced with this question of like the different models that you can operate a development team nowadays, right? Like
Mhm,
we've been pushing the agile process for so long at so many software companies,
mhm,
but it comes back to like the planning pieces of it, right? Like I think even more so with the AI tools that are running now and coming online and the automation that we can get to, we have to understand that the AI could literally work 24 hours a day for us, right? And so it could be prospecting and marketing, or it could be writing code in the development side, or it could be answering support tickets for customer success. Like those things are happening 24/7 for you with AI. And
right.
so it comes back to several pieces that I have to reiterate over and over and over. Like, if you don't have a governance policy at your company, the people are spending money on ChatGPT on the side without any policies in place. So,
Right.
like, get a governance practice in place. I think you've mentioned that several times just in the few minutes we've been talking here.
Mhm.
But like, I guess hone in on like some examples of workflows. Like, do you see us going back and planning 10 times more and maybe more waterfallish versus agile? Because the more detailed plans, I think the more successful the AI can be and the end result. Or I don't know, walk through what you're
Yeah.
seeing with workflows and stuff that's changing with this AI world coming into purview.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it's really complex to really unpack. And I think it again really starts at that leadership level of understanding when we adopt these kind of solutions, like what does that team structure look like now? Like what are specific tasks that make the most sense for the AI solution to handle versus a human, right? So like being able to leverage what the AI tool does best versus what humans do best. But one of the, we talk at length about this. I spoke at a conference in Florida earlier this year about the future of work and AI now. I mean, everyone has questions about what does my job look like? Is AI going to replace me? And really, the three big buckets that we're seeing today. Number one, you're going to have AI just replace certain functions and roles. I mean, I think back, you brought up the rollout of the PCs and the internet. Before those days, there were memo writers and people literally running
Hmm.
through the halls with physical pieces of paper. That job doesn't exist anymore. So there may be
Right.
certain components that we might think about, certain tasks that are just handled now. It's just more, it's more efficient to be leveraged by an AI solution versus a human. The
Yeah.
second bucket will be humans using the tools, using them within their role plus the AI solution. I think back, my first role out of college was a data analyst, and probably 80 to 90% of my job was pulling data from various sources and manipulating it and cleaning the data. That could all be
Hmm.
handled by AI now. So that would free up an analyst to actually spend more time on the data, understanding the trends, and being able to communicate to the business. So there's definitely a
That's
lot
exactly
of
right.
those roles going to be augmented with these AI solutions. But the
Mm.
third big bucket I don't think is mentioned enough are all these new roles being created with AI. I mean, there's roles like AI strategists, AI ethicists, prompt engineers. There's all these new opportunities now with this AI world that we're in, which is going to be really exciting to see how these new roles and tasks start to evolve and roll out now. So there's really those three big buckets kind of in play here with the future of work in this AI era. So I think with leaders, it's just understanding, their specific workflows and their teams and just really identifying where it makes the most sense to leverage the AI solution versus a human within their workflows.
And it's so interesting because quality assurance of these AI models, like it's so open and nebulous. You know what I mean? Like here's the happy path, but like go try and break it. And then like I was watching a video just the other day on not only try and go break it, but like go get it to do something that it shouldn't do. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like go and give me the recipe for a bomb or give, you know what I mean? Like try to literally break it. Yeah, I think we don't know all the job titles that are about to be unleashed on the world, but I can tell you, I think there's going to be a strong need for humans in many, many aspects of it. I think I say this almost every episode, but I feel like it's ushering in a new Renaissance era. Like it's just like the creativity that we're going to be able to do. The sky's the limit now, right? Like I can just go out there and craft something myself with a little bit of knowledge after taking a couple of those courses and figuring out my right governance plan. So,
Mhm.
well, I mean, we've touched so much on the leadership pieces of this, and I think that's what it really comes down to is is leading. And I was just at a conference last week where one of their keynotes was really talking about how important leadership is in the world of AI as we roll it out. So, as we're rounding out the third part of the show here, how are you helping share your knowledge and helping others grow in this AI leadership space?
Yes, it all comes down to leadership with this AI era that we're in, right? We're ushering in these new use cases, these new solutions. How do we run our teams now? So, and I think there's still a big gap with leaders and being educated in the space. So, I'm doing a lot of that work right now is educating leaders. I have a partners out of Europe. We're doing this AI leadership development program. So, actually developing leaders in this time of AI, but it's such a multifaceted space, though. I mean, leaders need to understand governance is so key and understanding how do we safely adopt and bring on these solutions. We need to understand how do you make decisions about investments. There's all these questions about data centers and chips and the right LLMs that you want to use for your solutions.
Hmm.
There's all these, methods you need to really unpack. And then obviously the strategy component, understanding the right opportunities to leverage AI so that we are actually delivering value with these solutions and not falling into that 80 to 90% of solutions that actually fail. But I think you just touched on this too about the human aspect. I mean, how do we lead now with humans at the center? Making sure these solutions aren't just widely replacing our team members, right? Humans play a critical component in this AI era. So we want to make sure we're lifting up humans. We're not, stifling them, holding them back, just widely replacing them with these solutions, but really leading with humans at the center. And so that's what's so key
Hmm.
about these leadership development programs and educating leaders in this time of AI. Like, don't forget about us. Don't forget about the humans, right? We want to make sure
That's right.
we're lifting humans up and not just widely replacing them. So those are some of the ways I'm leading, working with teams and in leadership with things like strategy, governance, but education. I mean, we all need to learn about these solutions, whether you're, just coming out of college and you're going into a data analyst role or you're a leader of a huge organization. We all need to learn and be prepared for this AI era and make sure we're not leaving the humans behind.
That's right. And it's curious to see like will some companies take this as a cost saving measure or will other people really embrace it and say, look, we're going to move to a 30-hour work week?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like there's so many opportunities to see where this goes and stuff. I still I don't want us to you know tap into the beat the bush too many times here on that front, but like the governance piece of it is just so important to me. So like explainability for how the AI got to the conclusion that it got to, the
Mm-hmm.
governance around, you know, do our employees are not giving away our trade secrets and all these kinds of things,
Right.
and everybody has some basic framework. Like I remember putting on my resume expert in Excel and PowerPoint, you know what I mean? Like I don't think any of us do that anymore. It's just kind of like taken for granted that you should know Excel and
Mm-hmm.
PowerPoint. But we need to be putting these things on our resumes right now, that I have taken this prompt engineering class,
Mm-hmm.
so like it is our job, as this technology is going to roll out so fast to companies, as leaders, to establish a firm governance foundation on
Yes.
that. And in my opinion, the explainability side. So how are you like starting those conversations and leading it and almost helping the CEOs move from fear into like opportunity?
Yes, and a little bit of it varies per industry. So I've done quite a bit of work in the banking industry where I've been very instrumental in standing up AI governance programs within the banking industry at Fortune 500 banks. I'm also getting a lot of interest out of the healthcare world. They're very, many healthcare organizations are very hesitant and afraid of AI because of HIPAA, right? All this data privacy concerns
Hmm.
and like that. So I see some of those like more highly regulated industries almost starting with governance in place first before even thinking about adopting solutions. So they have a firm handle on, what does this mean for our data privacy and our regulations and the AI governance aspect and the AI regulations. I think some organizations sort of meddle the data governance and the AI governance, and I see them as kind of two separate things, really. And if your organization is still starting with data governance and still doesn't have those kind of firm policies in place, like you've got to start there. I mean, if your data is biased or messy or just unorganized to start with, that's going to get fed down to your AI models and your solutions.
Hmm.
So if you are an organization brand new to AI, want to start this journey, you've got to start with your data first and making sure that's in the best place possible before you move into AI adoption and AI governance. But
Yep.
there's so many best practices I could give about standing up AI governance. You want to start with identifying your team, bringing in members of your legal team, compliance team, data technology teams, really establishing your board of the AI governance organization. You also want to educate that board. You want them to
Yes.
be educated in what are the regulations today, right? Certain states in the U.S. are starting to develop their own AI kind of regulations or guidelines. If you're working globally, you've got to pay attention. Do you fall under the EU AI Act and some of those other, global
Hmm.
regulations today? So understanding your policies. Also developing a workflow. So like, having a clear process when you have solutions or use cases coming in, that you have your governance flow. If someone presents the solution, you talk through the solution, looking in the models, the explainability, traceability, looking into all those things. And then if everyone kind of has that firm sign off and approval, then you're cleared to go to a production environment. But having all eyes of the organization,
That's right.
part of it, I think is going to be really successful for you when you're standing up your own governance program.
Yeah, so true. And I love, like, you touched on the data governance. I think the cybersecurity piece is another strong one. Like all three or four of these strong frameworks need to work hand in hand.
Definitely.
And I love how you're creating this like ripple effect with what you've been talking about. Like you have to start there, and then it ripples into all these other periods of your business. So I think that's what leadership in AI, in my opinion, really looks like. So I commend you on your efforts there.
Oh, thank you.
Um, we're drawing to a close here, Sarah. So tell us a little bit more about Global AI Advisors. How do we get in touch with you or the company, and what does it look like to engage with you?
Sure. So definitely, reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have any questions, want to learn more. That's a really quick way to get in touch with me. But we offer advising services from, like I was mentioning, standing up governance programs, identifying use cases, developing your AI strategy, helping you overall successfully adopt AI solutions for your organization. We also do education. So, we teach some things like the prompt engineering, the hands-on, training with generative AI, but we also do a lot on the leadership development side. So if you are a business leader, you want to learn more and really figure out the best ways to lead your organization in this AI era, definitely reach out to me about some of those leadership development opportunities as well. But I'm also a speaker, so speak on podcasts like these. If you want me to come speak to your leadership teams at a conference. I've spoken on stages around the world, so happy to be available to you as a speaker as well.
Awesome. Well, clearly you're an expert on this, along with me and a handful of other people out there. So please reach out to me or Sarah if you need any help with AI. We cross-pollinate each other very well, I think, on that front. Sarah, thank you so much for joining me today. I loved hearing all your different aspects on learning, leveraging, and leading with AI.
Oh, thank you
If
so much, Brian. I really enjoyed the conversation today.
If you are listening out there and you enjoyed this episode, please do me a favor. Follow the podcast, leave a review, or share it with somebody who wants to grow with AI. You can find more about Sarah and her work on her LinkedIn page. We'll make sure that's linked down below in the show notes. And check out Global AI Advisors. I will make sure all that and any other links that we talked about today were mentioned in the show notes. So again, I'm Brian Denstead. Thank you everybody for listening in. We'll see you next week. And remember, the future doesn't wait. Learn, leverage, and lead with AI.
This episode of AI with Bri was hosted and produced by me, Brian Denstedt. Produced with help from Nancy Velasquez and Kelly Lopez. Video by Leo Moralina. Sound AI generated. Find us on all platforms at AI with Bri and visit ai.bri.net for more. Learn, leverage, lead.